Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call the meeting of the Audit Committee to order, please. Michelle, are there any public speakers?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have one member of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that the public speaker adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speaker that in the interest of time and fairness to all, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. Our only public speaker will be Charlton D'Souza.
Good afternoon, everyone. Charlton D'Souza, President of Passengers United. And what I wanted to know with the Audit Committee is how come the Bowery Residents Committee has never been audited by the MTA? And how come there's no, the social service providers that provide outreach to the homeless and the emotionally disturbed people in the subway, how come they've never been brought into an MTA board meeting or committee meeting to discuss what they're doing, what their outreach is? The only way that the statistics that you guys are getting about homeless intervention is from the police department. And I want to know why even the Department of Homeless Services under the City of New York and even the state agencies are not being called into the MTA. And they're, so I think that has to improve because everything is being put on the police in terms of homeless outreach in the subway. But I feel like, we have to hold the shelter and we have to hold the outreach providers and the nonprofits accountable because the MT is giving them millions of dollars to provide outreach to the homeless. So I feel that the nonprofit directors have to be brought in and held accountable as to what their services they're providing, what are the, services and the placements and things like that. So again, I look forward to the MT board and the chairman and the president of New York City Transit and the president of the railroad, as well as Metro North, following up on this, as well as the board. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes our public speakers.
Thank you, speakers. Next, we have the approval of the minutes for the July 17th meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved.
A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, and a vote.
Yes.
Aye, the minutes are approved. Michelle, are there any changes to the work plan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the fourth and final audit committee for 2023, and there are no changes to the work plan. The proposed 2024 work plan is included in the committee materials for information purposes, and any proposed changes will be presented for approval at the January meeting.
Thank you. Jill Strohmeyer from Deloitte is here to present the results of the review of the MTA consolidated financial statements for the second quarter of 2023.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Deloitte is in the process of completing our quarterly review procedures for the MTA's consolidated interim financial statements for the 6-month period ended June 30th, 2023. A review consists primarily of inquiries of management and analytical procedures, so it is less in scope than an audit would be. Our objective of a review is to express an opinion on the quarterly financial statements. Based on our reviews at this time, we are not aware of any material modifications that need to be made to the interim financial statements for them to be in accordance with GAAP. And I'll take any questions that you may have regarding the review of the second quarter financials.
Are there any questions? Yes?
Is there a management letter that comes with this quarterly review?
No, not during the quarterly reviews. There's no formal management comment letter. However, if there was a significant deficiency or material weakness that we did identify during the quarterly work, we would, in fact, communicate that to you today, but we have none.
Okay. You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, then may I have a motion to accept the second quarter 2023 MTA consolidated financial statements?
So moved.
A second, please. Okay, and a vote.
I never felt so necessary.
Very necessary. I need a vote too. Okay, the statements are accepted. Now, for the appointment of the external auditors, this is the second year of this external audit contract between MTA and Deloitte that was awarded in October 2022. As part of the annual reappointment process, the committee requires the auditor to present to the committee the results of the most recent inspection of the firm that was conducted by the PCAOB, or the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board. We have a copy of the 2021 report that was issued September 2022. And Jill, will you please briefly explain the contents?
Sure. So Deloitte's latest PCAOB report is on page 148 of your materials. And due to the fact that Deloitte is registered with the PCAOB and performs audits of publicly traded companies each year, the PCAOB is required to inspect the audit working papers prepared by Deloitte for selected audits. The PCAOB reviews the work papers to determine whether Deloitte has followed the appropriate auditing standards, the PCAOB rules, as well as internal Deloitte policies and procedures. During the 2021 inspection cycle, which is the last cycle, 54 public issuers were reviewed, 54 audit clients of Deloitte were reviewed by the PCAOB, and 7 of those audits were given comments. A total of 11 comments were received across those 7 engagements. Out of the 11 comments, 7 related to audit of internal control over financial reporting that is integrated with an audit of financial statements. This is the case when an auditor is required to issue a report on internal controls. The 7 comments related to this type of audit report. Most private company audits, for which the MTA is a private company audit, you're not considered an integrated audit. We do not issue a separate report on your internal controls. This is really relevant to our public company audit clients. The other 4 comments relate to matters such as audit evidence obtained, the auditor's response to risk assessment, going concern, and overall evaluation of the audits. I want to just let you know that none of the 7 audit engagements that received comments had incorrect audit opinions. This is really about the audit evidence obtained and documented in the audit file, but the audit opinions were correct as issued. Finally, just want to compare to last year. There were the overall comments between 21 and 2020 were relatively consistent. This year, 11 comments over 7 audits. Last year, the 2021 inspection results, there were 10 comments over 2 audits. So it's 11 comments in total versus 10. It just happens to span more audit engagements than in prior years. I will emphasize that Deloitte is committed to audit quality. There are a number of things that Deloitte is doing around transformation, fostering the development of our people, training, to, again, evidence our commitment to high quality audits. I also want to just bring to your attention the peer review. So we go through a peer review process every 3 years. Our peer reviewer is Grant Thornton. Grant Thornton reviews private company audits for which Deloitte performs, so not publicly traded companies. The latest peer review report, which is available right now, is our 2020 report. That report from Grant Thornton gave Deloitte the highest possible rating of a pass. Our 2023 peer review report should be available by the end of 2023, so in the next couple of months. I will let the committee know that one of my engagements, not the MTA engagement, but one of my engagements was in fact selected by Grant Thornton for inspection, and I did receive a satisfactory result, a compliant audit. And then also my engagement team members to my right, Kostas Makrakis and Mike Tartaglia, also were part of the PCAOB inspection this past cycle. Their particular engagements have received no comments. So just wanted to let you know that there also is work being done, not only on the PCAOB side, but on the private company side as well.
Okay. Thank you, Jill. Do we have any questions or comments about the PCAOB report or the reappointment of Deloitte as MTA's independent auditor? Okay, good. We need a motion to appoint Deloitte as the MTA's external auditors. Let me finish. Now a second. Now a second. And a vote, please. Thank you. Deloitte is appointed as the MTA's external auditors for the audit of the 2023 financial statements. Okay, continuing with Deloitte, Jill will tell us about the audit approach to the 2023 year-end audits of the MTA financial statements and that of its agencies. Jill will also discuss any new or proposed changes in accounting principles, regulations, or financial reporting practices, and its impact to the financial statements. Jill?
Right. So in your materials, you had two documents. They're both audit plans, one related to the overall MTA and the agencies, and one related to the benefit plan audits. I will go through the benefit plan audits next, but we'll start with the main audits of the financial statements. On page 3, you'll see our leadership team serving the MTA. Looks very much the same as it did in prior years. I do want to let the committee know that this is my last year for serving the MTA. There's a New York State Public Authorities law that would say that the audit partner, managing director responsible for the audits must rotate every 5 years. This is my 5th year. We do have a transition plan in place. Costas Makrakis, to my right, has been on the engagement for the last 2 years, really shadowing me and my team, and will take over at the conclusion of the 2023 audit. Other than that, this team for this year is pretty much the same as last year. Moving to page 4, we highlight some of our diversity, equity, and inclusion commitments that we have here at Deloitte. Wanted to let you know that as part of your audit engagement, Deloitte does utilize the services of 4 different minority, women, and service-disabled veteran-owned firms. We use them for a total of 36% of our total contract with the MTA, and they help us on all facets of the MTA audit: compliance, agreed-upon procedures, reviews, and audit work. Moving to page 5, just to remind the committee, Deloitte performs the audit of the financial statements in accordance with AICPA standards as well as government auditing standards. And then we also follow the OMB requirements as it relates to your compliance audits or your federal single audit. We plan and perform our audits to obtain reasonable assurance about whether your financial statements are free from material misstatement, whether caused by fraud or error. We do not plan to adopt a control reliance strategy in the performance of our audits. This is what I refer to as an integrated audit. We do not perform an integrated audit. However, we do look at the MTA's internal controls, how they're designed, how they're implemented, and that really helps us determine what level of substantive testing we'll perform, how many detailed transactions we'll take a look at through the course of our audit. We don't issue an opinion, but we look at your internal controls each year. Page 6 lists out the risk assessment. There is a triangle. At the top of the triangle are the areas where we spend the most time during the audit, and as you move down the pyramid or the triangle, we spend less time on each of those different layers. This year, we'll focus on management override of controls, as we do every year. It's our only significant risk that we've identified at this point. It's a significant risk for every audit that Deloitte performs. So no matter if you're a public company audit of ours or a private company, management override of controls is a significant risk for every audit client. And we perform direct procedures to look at that risk. Moving down the next layer, a couple areas that we'll concentrate on this year. Pension and OPEB, those are very large liabilities recorded on the financial statements of the MTA. We do spend a good amount of time looking at the work of your specialists. We'll be looking at construction work in progress, your capital assets, and all of the projects that you have going on. Your non-operating revenue, these are your subsidies, your tax subsidies, other appropriations, your grant monies coming in from various sources. We do spend a good amount of time looking at those areas. And then one new area this year relates to the adoption of GASB accounting pronouncements 94 and 96. 94 relates to subscription-based IT arrangements, SPIDAs for short. It very much looks like the lease standard that was adopted last year. And so when you receive the 2023 financial statements, you will see new accounts related to SPIDA recorded on the financial statements as well as disclosures. And Jim and team will also have to go through another restatement as this accounting pronouncement is effective as of January 1, 2022. So for the comparative year presented in the financial statements. And that's GASB 96. GASB 94 relates to public-public partnerships, public-private partnerships, as well as availability payment arrangements. And so Deloitte was in a couple of weeks ago providing some training to the MTA management team about what this standard entails, and now management is going through the process to determine whether or not there will be an impact on your financial statements. We do not plan to rely on the use of the internal audit department. While we work closely with the internal audit department, we receive all of the internal audit reports. We read those reports. They assist Deloitte in determining our risk and what areas that we may need to focus on more throughout the year. While Costas and Mike are here at the table today, there are a number of specialists that we also use throughout the performance of our audit. Specialists related to testing of pensions, your OPEB liabilities, large claims, judgments and claims. We have actuarial specialists in-house at Deloitte that support Costas, Mike, and I. We also have IT specialists that help look at system controls and reports that are generated from the system and whether or not we can rely on those reports generated from the system. We also have some data analytics specialists that help us look at journal entries. Does the debit credit make sense? And finally, we also have a specialist that looks at your incremental borrowing rate specific to GASB 96 related to SPIDAs and GASB 87 related to leases. The timeline is very much the same as in prior years as far as when we plan to perform the work and also when we plan to issue the reports throughout the year. No changes there. Pages 12 through 14 of the document outline some of Deloitte's technology tools and some of the benefits that come from using the tools during the performance of our audits. If there are any questions after today, happy to have a one-on-one conversation about those tools. Page 15 and 16 is the peer review report. I'm required to share with the audit committee the results of that peer review report. They're in here. As soon as I have the 23 results, I'll be happy to pass those along as well. And then last but not least, starting on page 18 through the end of the document, just a technical update, new GASB pronouncements that are on the horizon for the MTA to think about and consider. That concludes the audit plan for the financial statement audits. I'll quickly go through the benefit plan and then happy to answer any questions. So the smaller document relates to the audit of MTA's 6 employee benefit plans, including your defined benefit, defined contribution, and your OPEB plans. Similar to the main financial statement audits, there's just one significant risk identified at this time, and that relates to management override of controls. I mentioned it's the same for all of our audits. It also holds true for your benefit plan audits. If anything changes throughout the course of our audit, we identify something that we elevate to a significant risk, I will be communicating that to this committee and the reason for the elevation. And then finally, for the benefit plans, we do not plan to adopt a control reliance strategy here either, or use the results of the internal audit function. And the timing of our audits is consistent with prior years with planned issuance of the employee benefit plans in July of 2024. With that, be happy to answer any questions that you may have around Deloitte's audit plan for the 2023 audits.
Great, thank you, Jill. Are there any questions? Okay, good. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now for the Audit Committee Charter. For the record, the committee has been provided with a copy of the charter so they may review and assess the adequacy of the Audit Committee Charter. The committee members were asked to provide any comments or recommendations to revise the charter prior to the meeting, and no such recommendations were received. Therefore, based on our review, the committee recommends no changes to the charter at this time. Next, we have Lamont Kearse, the MTA Chief Compliance Officer, who will give a brief update on the implementation status of prior audit recommendations. Lamont?
Thank you very much. There's a presentation in the book. I'm not going to go through it this afternoon, but it's there if you have any questions. Corporate compliance continues to monitor the implementation of remediation plans that are generated as a result of audits or internal control testing. As of this date, we have 22 that are significant or high. That are pending closure, which means the particular departments have indicated that they have resolved the issue and is now going through an internal process to verify that, in fact, both audit services and corporate compliance agree that they have, in fact, implemented the remediation as required. There are additional 19 that are still pending, and we are working very closely with the departments to hopefully close those out very, very soon. I will also note there was a side conversation before we began between myself and Raf. So yes, Raf, I will mention that IT has closed a significant number of remediation plans. I believe we started off at over 30. At one point, we're down to 4.
Excellent.
Good. Okay, Raf.
Good job. That's what I want to hear.
He made me say that my computers are going to be turned off. So, all right. But again, everyone is working very diligently, and so I think we have been making some real progress since we started making these reports to the audit committee.
Good, good. Thank you, Lamont. Are there any questions? Okay. Next, I have a 4-page draft report that covers the activities of the audit committee during the 12 months ended July 31st, 2023. A draft of this report was circulated to you for your review and comments last week. Are there any questions to that? Suggestions? Good. Okay, may I then have a motion to approve this report for submission to the full board?
So moved.
Second.
And a vote, please? Thank you. The Audit Committee activity report will be finalized and submitted to the board. Now, pursuant to Section 105(1) of the New York State Public Officers Law, the Audit Committee will go into executive session, but we need a motion, and we need a second to go into executive session. Aye. Okay. Thank you. Can I leave my folder? Yeah. The Audit Committee received a briefing during executive session from MTA IT on the security of sensitive data in accordance with the New York State Public Officers Law. Now we need a motion for the Audit Committee to adjourn.
Motion.
A second, please, and a vote? Aye.
Aye.
The Audit Committee is adjourned. Thank you very much.